Hi Capricorn. I just did this entire reading to myself. That's okay. As you can see, I've been talking for a while. But since we already have the cards, I'm just going to go through them. So the first thing that I was saying is that I don't think that people realize how deeply spiritual this time of year is for you. And not because the year is coming to a close. And as I said that, the first card popped out. For you, time is very different than it is for the rest of us. Saturn is the one that sets the clock. And you enjoy and appreciate things, accomplishments, craftsmanship, quality, things that take time. And so your relationship to your season coming around, to aging, it's very different than the rest of us. You look forward to this time of year because it is such a soothing and smart thing to do, to take stock of how much you've accomplished. Now, this is a particularly interesting year to take stock because you've accomplished so much. And that's when the Temperance card came up. So you have, especially for those of you who are a Capricorn rising, you have this Sagittarius influence in your 12th house, which is your subconscious and how you process your inner life. Who you've been inside is now beginning to reflect on the outside. And what I mean by that is someone who is very congenial, very successful, mashallah, very personable. And I think for those of you who can be, well, all of you are cutting, but I think for those of you who are really feeling the altitude at the top and very comfortable with doing well and beginning to exude this charm that comes from very high self-esteem and knowing that you've, that you're crushing it. I think those of you who are there have turned your attention, again, harkening back to this idea of Capricorn being an extremely spiritual sign. I think those of you who are, at the top now, sitting at the top of the mountain, you've turned your eyes to even deeper transformations. It's not enough to just win in the external. You also want to win at this game called, the inner life. There are no games that you don't want to win. That's for sure. And when that's framed properly, it makes for a very formidable person, one, but also a very powerful person spiritually. And then these cards came up. So what does that mean? That means that a lot of you, now that you feel that level of high self-esteem that you need to feel to really be able to be honest and acknowledge other things, right, about yourself, you feel that. And I think what you're it's beginning to creep into your consciousness, like maybe I should think a little bit about the way I say things to people. Now, you may think I mean tone, but I don't. Here, I think you're at the point where you realize that you have this superpower. You have this way of being where you can really reduce people to shreds with your words, right? And you have the intellect to be able to hit true points. But that doesn't always mean that it's done with the right intention. So the 9 of Cups here, to me, is about all the different ways that people exacerbate you. Exacerbate these 9 cups, whether they're too full or too empty or just ignored completely. When those points in you are triggered by somebody around you and their behavior, you have a tendency to use this superpower for not so good. And you know that. Well, that's the cool thing. You know that now, and it doesn't bother you. It's just one more thing to fix. It doesn't send you into this shame spiral or insecurity spiral. Now, why is this even happening? I think it's because in your past, you have moments when Capricorns are too small to have any real power, i.e. their children, and you guys don't remain children for long. It's kind of a traumatic experience for you to not have power. And however that plays out, whether it's not so great and pretty mild or like terrible, those wounds do live within you. And when someone shows up with that same powerlessness that you used to have, or no longer, right? You took control of your life probably at a very young age and made it happen, got away, made it through, whatever you did. But I think it does leave you very vulnerable to people who are still victims in their life now, because you remember what it's like and you don't want anyone to go through that, right? And we've talked many times about how that can leave you open to all kinds of manipulation. But the other side of it, you know, on one side it gives you this predilection for victims, and you know that we've talked about this several times. But on the other end of it, if people exhibit too much power, I think that irritates you too. If people exhibit power foolishly, I think that exacerbates you too, for the same reasons. And so what an amazing thing, and I'm really not saying this to butter you up, what an amazing thing for Capricorn to be at the summit, and then instead of like kind of just sitting there on their laurels and going mad, they look even deeper. You know, I've conquered the outside world and now I want to conquer the inside world. The outer game is won. The inner game must be won. All the games must be won. And how very fascinating that this is where we start. Because, again, not to butter you up, but I don't really know of many flaws that you have outside of this one. It's truly a monumental one, but it's really easy to fix. It's not like a big deal. It's a big deal if you can't acknowledge it. It's a big deal for others if they feel like they can't say it to you. That's the best part of this. This is something you're coming up with on your own. Nobody's talking to you about this, unless you've got like a feisty little air sign or fire sign around who's just kind of foolish and doesn't care if you get mad. They might tell you. Now, how do you work on it? Well, you got to look at which one of these cups is empty or full, right? And what does that take? That takes quiet. And sometimes when we're quiet, it can get sad. You know, again, because quiet's super introspective. And if you do come from that powerless trauma space as a child, you know, who wants to be quiet? Why? So you could go back there? But maybe there is a way to be quiet without being sad. That's interesting. What happens when you're quiet and contemplative and it's not sad? And it's not about what happened back then, and it's not about what's going to happen next. It's not about how much you've done, how much there is still left to do. What if it's, maybe that's what scares you about contemplation, is that it's not an achievable goal. It's not something that can be won. It's not something that can be conquered. It's not something that can be enhanced. There's no tricked out package. There's no luxury option. You know, the hermit is the same for everyone. Clad in rags and tattered clothes, with just a staff to keep his balance and a light in the dark. There is no way to upgrade that hermit and his contemplation. It is a feeling, an energy, something you take on, an archetype that is outside of time and space. Very much plumbing to the depths of the singularity. And if you think about it, that's pretty interesting, right? You love stuff like that. But it's hard to get there if you're going to try to jump over this. And it's hard to get there if you think that if I have to go through this, then I want the luxury version of this when I get there. No. There's no luxury version, and you can't jump over this. You got to get through it, and then you got to do that. And when you do that, and this is not easy, then you get that. And then Aquarius season, everything starts to balance out. Starts to make a little more sense. For a little while, it'll get hazy, you know? The past is an old habit. It's a bad habit. It's a habit that it's time that you break. And you know what I mean by that. Nobody else knows what I mean, but you know. And you know you more than anyone knows. You ever been around someone who has a really bad habit and everybody knows and they know that they gotta break it, but everybody knows and they know that they're not gonna do it? That's not gonna be you. You're too good for that. You're too smart for that. I'm telling you all the things you need to hear. Nobody's too good to not get addicted. It's just a metaphor. You're too good to be addicted to your past. You're too much of a catch to keep living here. And I think if you can take whatever trauma wants to come at you, especially at the beginning of January, and you can say, okay, I'm going to put this aside for a second. And I'm going to think about it. I'm going to contemplate. I'm not going to do anything about it. Maybe that's the trick here. I'm going to put it to the side. I'm going to think about it. And while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to clear my table of all the things I need to get done and create some world, inner life, outer life balance. I think that will give you a sustained like boost of power and energy that you need. You know, you love, like I said, to get shit done. And at the same time, you also love a back burner, slow burn thing going on, right? So I've found, again, maybe this is 3 Capricorn brothers talking, but it's proven, studies have proven that if you want to talk to a man, and Capricorn's a very male sign, just follow me here, you will get much better results if you sit down next to them. Example, while they're watching a game or something, and casually speak to them about something. As soon as you put a man across from you and you start talking to him, especially if your tone is at all confrontational, it's a whole different part of his brain that's going to light up, and it has nothing to do with communication or compromise. So that back burner, slow burn that's going on, that slow cook about this and the projecting and everything we talked about, that's actually very beneficial for you. Instead of trying to like deal with it head on, we're going to find a solution. There is no solution. The only solution is you got to stop being addicted to the past. But what does that actually mean? That means that you let this cook, you let whatever is going on here and how it tends to trigger things and have you project things. You watch yourself, okay? You watch yourself. And while you're doing that, in the meantime, get a bunch of shit done that you need to get done that you know is good for you. And this will kind of be, you know, laterally coming at you, sitting next to you, having that conversation while you're engaged in something else. And I think that if you let it in, it will make some sense of your past in a way that you can be free of it. Because the truth is that you have the world in your hands right now. And so, like the smartest and most successful of people, you have decided that the way to hold on to this success is to get your mind right. And honestly, I have so much respect for it, because so many people make the mistake of becoming successful, rich, powerful, accomplished, and then just turning into complete degenerates because they do not take care of their inner life. And so for you to be really focused on that is impressive. And if you're watching this and going, oh, I'm not really that focused on that, I'm kind of just living it up, stop. You can always do that. And of course you deserve it. But doing this simultaneously will make you bulletproof to the pitfalls of success. Do you understand? It will keep you humble in a way that appeals to you, it appeals to everybody else, and it doesn't make you feel like you're bending the knee. Yeah? Good. Let me just look over your astrology and see what else is going on. Now, in the beginning of the month, we talked about how you might be thinking of the past, and it feels very much like you've completely moved on from that, and that I love this first card for that. So there's not much here in terms of the past, right? Like you've completely moved on, and it's so positive, and now you just have to clear not just this person, whatever was trying to come back from the past. Now you just have to go further back. Now you have to clear out further back. And organizing becomes the name of the game now. You can't be fly if you don't know what's in your closet. Organizing the past, organizing your thoughts, organizing your time, making time for meditation, making time to, contemplate, making time to rock out. Give yourself the structure. Give yourself the space within that structure. Infinity within finite spaces. To be and do, but also to shine some lights. To let some things go, yeah? It will only make you better. It will only reinforce this supremacy that you naturally take to so well. There is nothing quite as impressive or alluring, nothing, as an extremely successful person who is personable and humble and down to earth. That is like the most unbeatable combination in a human being. And you stand to be that right now. And we know you don't slip. So, be who you are, be a good person, keep doing the work. And as you're figuring out what your triggers are and what exacerbates you that makes you like clear people, have a lot of grace for yourself and forgiveness for yourself. And whatever you've said in the past, it's okay. Don't look at it through that light. Like, oh gosh, yeah, that was because of that. Maybe I said that to that person. No. Acknowledge that this is something that has happened. Go back further than that to the actual trauma. Deal with that now as an adult. Look back with adult eyes. Go back into those scenarios. Talk to that child as the adult. Tell them they're going to be fine. Tell them they're going to make it. Tell them they're going to survive. Whatever you need to do. But don't get stuck in that murky place where you're like, oh my God, do I need to ask a bunch of people forgiveness? Is this like a 12-step? No. This is just you. Which is how you like it. This is your season. You want to do you. And a lot for you of doing you is like, you want your shit, and you want your time, and you like doing your shit by yourself. I know. But again, for this to be what you tackle, it's supreme. It's so impressive. And it gives me a lot of, faith in people to watch you guys succeed and handle it so beautifully. Because generally, people, when they get even a tiny modicum of power somewhere, become insufferable. Just awful to be around. So congratulations. Congratulations on your season. Congratulations on your rebirth. Congratulations on your wins. Congratulations on your popularity. Mashallah, mashallah, mashallah. You guys are doing very well. And it looks like you continue to do well and seek balance. And that balance, again, found in letting this cook while you handle whatever in the material world needs to be handled. And where we go from there, we'll get into in the extended. I love you, love you. I'm so sorry you missed the shuffle, but actually I think I did a pretty good job of summarizing what I was rambling on about until I looked up and saw the dreaded, oh my God, there's no red light. I love you. That's for sure. That's for sure. Here you are in your birthday reading. Come on, elites. I love you and we all love you and we're all so very grateful for you. And once a year we get to tell you that. And it's always a pleasure. Thank you for keeping us all in line. Love you. Happy birthday.